I'm Gacha J, and this is your home for Gacha news, analysis, and reviews. Let's go. Today we are taking on Lynn, the drunken swordsman herself. She boasts a gigantic cleaver. That animation is pretty awesome. Overall, she's a very nice design, and I love her animations. But we need to make sure that the statistics make sure that she's actually worth acquiring for those of you that aren't just in this for collecting all the different waifus and characters that there are in the game. So her normal attack is called Drunken Chef. Drunken swordsmanship. Use sword technique that consumes energy to inflict damage. Flame martial arts. Breathe fire and damages enemies and increases attack by 30% for 4 seconds. Increasing her attack by 30% is vastly needed with the way that her kit rounds out, but we will continue to get into that in a second. Her chain skill is nothing of note. It just simply does 320% of her DPS, and her special ability is damage taken is reduced by 30% when energy is full or while restoring energy, which is another way of saying, hey, as long as you aren't attacking, you get to take 30% less damage. Now, is that important? Kinda, because tanking damage is like the majority of her kit. She's a drunken swordsman. She doesn't feel pain. Now, her party buff comes in at another melee attack plus 50. We're getting quite a few of these in the game, so it's pretty interesting to think about the type of bonuses that you could get by stacking these on top of each other and getting a whopping 200% melee attack on someone like Eugene would be kind of redonkulous. And even though that may be a subject for another video, I am really interested if any of you guys have all of these different characters with the melee plus 50%, how that actually works out for you, because it's a really interesting scenario. Now let's jump straight into her exclusive a bit here. It is called Red Lotus. It is that gigantic cleaver that you see. Sadly, it's a one-handed sword and she does not get to have a shield, similar to Marina. It is a fire-based attack, and it comes with the 2,822 DPS maximum with the fire attack of 887, critical hit chance of 6%, HP of plus 10%, defense plus 10%, skill damage plus 10%, and of course it comes with its own little passive, which is on hit, sets enemies on fire and inflicts 100% of DPS of injury damage. Activates once every 4 seconds. That's pretty interesting to continuously apply injury damage every 4 seconds. Now, injury damage isn't a very large part of this game, but it does mean that she would be able to use her chain skills more often. But we've already noted that her chain skill isn't all that impotent. Impotent being the mixture between important and potent, apparently, in my mind. So overall, it's a fairly lackluster ability on the back end of her passive here. The damage that comes out of the injury state is already not that significant to begin with. The only thing that's of interest here is if it continues to do that tick, and that would be more beneficial in situations like Coliseum or PvE, where you're constantly trying to get these chain skills off. But overall, her kit lends more towards Arena, where that chain skill isn't going to be as vastly needed. Now, don't get me wrong, 320% as often as you can get it is very powerful, but overall, her kit is not designed towards damage. You would want to see with somebody like this a way to cleave through armor, a way to do percent health, a way to reflect damage, something along those lines, because overall, her damage profile is very, very small. Now, when we look at her animations, they really are cool looking, but unfortunately, there isn't any modifier to it. If anything, it's about a 3% additional modifier on top of it, and the way that the animation plans out and the recharge time, it honestly comes out to be about the exact same. She's doing exactly what you would expect her to do over the length of her animation cycle, and if you have that applied attack bonus, it applies itself to it. Overall, it's exactly what you think it would be. Overall, her might comes out to about 4,050, which is vastly low. Now, based off of her kit and the way that she seems to play out, you would think that she would stack up closest to Marina. But Marina actually is 37% higher in terms of her might output than Lynn is. And that's kind of crazy considering that Lynn has these innate abilities to increase her by 30%. Her attack by 30%, but those abilities aren't up all of the time like Marina's are, and it's still off by a little bit more than 7%, which is kind of absurd that Marina gets to do all of these extra things without being punished on the offensive side like Lynn is. I don't know why exactly that is coming through. I think maybe that is because of the party buff and the way that it thinks it applies, and the way that party buff is prioritized over everybody else. But I think that this might alone really brings Lynn outside of the capabilities of which you would think for her to do, and she would really need to make up for it on the defensive end, which sadly she doesn't. Now, Lynn clocks in at a 245,000 tank, which is nothing to joke at, okay? But let's put this in comparison. That is right there with Marvin and slightly under Lavi. Lavi being a shield user and Marvin obviously not being one. But because of that party buff differential, Marina actually comes out with more than 100,000 tank more. That is an absurd amount of difference between the two, and it's obviously something that you need to be aware of. So overall, I can easily say without a shadow of a doubt that Lynn is going to be a pass for you unless you are planning on using an all melee attack and you really want to use advantage of that 50% melee attack party buff. Outside of that, Lynn really doesn't have a role out in the foreseeable futures. I think she will see play right here in the arena right off the bat, but I think that has more to do with her being an okay arena choice and it being buyer's remorse. I don't think she will actually be good in arena. She only seems to be good in Coliseum under certain team comps. She doesn't really bring anything to the fire composition, and there's better fire options than her. So overall, Lynn is someone to push by the wayside, which is very sad considering I love her character art. I'm hoping that they come around and they buff her damage output by a bit. I would love to see that fire damage that's done apply a damage over time based off percent health. I think that would really put her into a marginal place into the meta and something that you could really forecast over time. Imagine having an anti-tank type unit that can come through and attack smaller units as well. It would really position her towards the bruiser type that you want your Marina to be. Because Marina doesn't come with any innate CC of her own, and neither does Lynn, you can't really traditionally carry them out around as a tank. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and check out more of our content. This channel will be transitioning away from purely Guardian Tales content to more Gacha industry as a whole content, so I recommend you check out my tier list so you can get a better idea of what I will be bringing to the table here in the future. Take care.